Hey everybody, and welcome to The Split, a young adult book review podcast and booktube show for readers and writers. I'm Robert Scanlon from the Dreamer Chronicles, and once again, Brian is still missing in action. Can't believe it. But we have the wonderful Hayley back, and Hayley, who did such a good job in episode 53 with the Immortal Rules. We're going to be reviewing An Ember in the Ashes on this episode. How are you doing, Hayley?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am very well, thank you. I will give you a bit of a plug again in case people have forgotten from 2 weeks ago. Hayley Lawson, or H.J. Lawson, as she uses her pen name for the YA series. We have the Sanctioned series, we have the War Kids series, but you made a surprise announcement on the show a couple of weeks back. Yeah, you have a new vampire series. What's that called?
Yeah, it's The Hidden Slayer, and it's called, part of the series, it's The New Order. And it's about vampire slayers.
Ah, okay. And where can people get hold of that?
You're able to get a free copy, exclusive, 2 months in advance on my website. That's www.hdlawson.com.
There you go, hdlawson.com. You've got to go there. You can't knock back on off like that. I've only read The War Kids, but I do know that if you like action, adventure, and a high degree of darkness, you will love Hayley's books. So head over there and grab that. So together we're going to review An Ember in the Ashes. As usual, I will give a quick summary of the book, and then we'll get into the reader's perspective, the writer's perspective, some takeaways, finish with a prompt, and then we will be done. So, An Ember in the Ashes, and also a shout out to Lucky Calicar as well for recommending this. It was already in the queue, but you made me advance it, and because Hayley was willing to listen to things a little longer than Brian is sometimes willing to, we were able to put this one. It's another long one, isn't it, Hayley, as well, this one?
Yeah, 6. This is longer than the Immortal Rules.
Yes, yeah. I forget the page count, but I think they're both about 120 or 130,000.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, let's get into the summary. So, Leia, is that how they say it in the audio? The character?
Yeah.
It is Leia.
Yeah, like
liar. Liar. Oh, liar, is it?
Yeah, it sounded like that.
It's written L-A-I-A.
Yeah,
so
and it kept saying liar.
Okay, well, I'll go with liar. So Leia, who is 17, discovers her brother Darren is working for the Resistance. When a raid of marshals, the scholar's enemy and oppressor, sees her grandmother and grandfather brutally slaughtered in front of her, and I mean brutally, and her brother, scared for her life, she runs at her brother's insistence, only to be caught by a dreaded mask, one of Blackcliff's elite trained warriors. But strangely, the mask lets her go, leaving his chilling words etched in her mind. Run, little girl. With Darren, her only family left, Leia resolves to find him and free him. But how can she do that when everything and everyone is against her? This is An Ember in the Ashes is by Sabaa Tahir, and this is her debut. It's a fantastic debut, really. When I didn't realise it was a debut actually until I was quite a significant way through it. It's very gory. It's very fast-paced. There's a fair amount of sexual references. It's definitely for the older YA reader, that's for sure. So, Hayley, what did you think?
Well, I'm a big fan of the Game of Thrones. Watched all of them. Actually, watched all of the Game of Thrones back to back. I was on a challenge.
Binge watcher.
Well, I have this rule where I have to write as much as I can, and I'm allowed one evening off a week. And basically, it became the Game of Thrones evening where I could watch 3 Game of Thrones in one go. A very strict person with certain things. So with being a fan of the Game of Thrones, I felt that this was a cleaner YA version of the Game of Thrones.
Yes.
With the different elements of the fantasy aspects to the story. So I like that element of the Game of Thrones, where I wasn't expecting that within the story. You don't get that from the little description. It's not until you start listening to the story where it evolves into more of something like the Game of the Thrones. So I like the element of it.
Yeah, you really do get that whole medieval swashbuckling element, the opposing political forces, the juxtapositions of the factions, and not knowing who's got what agenda and why, and not being able to trust people. I think if you're a fan of Red Rising, which Brian and I loved, and although it's sci-fi, it has similar elements to it in terms of how the story plays out. We've got the training school, we've got the whole win or die kind of element to it, which comes around with, say, Hunger Games-esque things, or as you say, Game of Thrones, sort of political intrigue. And you've also got this sort of sense that she has to pretend to be something she's not, which is always makes for a great premise, I think, as well. So there's a lot stirred in, and a lot that could go wrong, actually, for a debut author in putting all that together. So I thought that was, we've got two protagonists here as well. So, you've got Leia, who's, needs to find her courage and try and be something that she really feels she's not. And then you've got Elias, who has got to work out where he stands, what's he loyal to. And so, it was really, there's a lot of tension in this book.
Yeah, I really liked the male character in the story a lot more than Leia.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know if that was to do with the audio, the way that the audio was, because there was a different pace within the audio of the way that they were speaking. I think it was two different voices and the different pace within it, They were English. I think the audio was in English, and then there was a twang of an Irish accent to the audio.
Oh,
so it made it a little bit difficult, even myself being from England, to listen to it clearly, because I felt that was overpowering some of the aspects of the story. So I gravitated more to the male character, but I think it was more because he was more violent.
Oh, he was a serious dude.
Oh, he was great.
Oh, he's good.
Like I'm looking forward to seeing, because I looked up on the about the author, and it took us 6 years to write this novel.
Yes. So started writing it as a teenager, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she was off pregnant, and she carried on working. And I think what I read was that she signed to the books to become into a movie.
Yes, I believe so.
So I'm really interested in who the male lead is going to be in this.
Who would you cast?
Oh, it could be anyone. I'm a big fan of Theo James, though, unfortunately. But I don't think he would be, obviously right for this story.
Yeah.
But there was a few things with the story that I really did like, and then there was other elements which I didn't like as a reader. I wasn't a fan of the resistance.
It wasn't. There was the motivation behind it wasn't very clear, was it?
It was very weak. Yeah. There was a huge letdown for me. I don't want to give it too away, but
no.
Yeah, but it was regarding the Emperor.
Yep.
And I thought that could have been huge.
Yes.
I was waiting for this thing to be huge, and it was just a one-liner. I was like, really?
Yes.
You'd set me up for this like really action adventure, like really gritty scene, and then you didn't like. You just used a one-liner, so I was pretty disappointed in that, to be honest.
Yes, I have. I had totally forgotten about that. You're dead right. I do remember it jarring a bit at the time, thinking, okay. I remember raising an eyebrow and thinking, okay. It's a little bit like, I don't remember the name of another one of those sword and sorcery fantasy things that we read, where there was this crazy tension building all the way through, and you expect it to be resolved in a big, huge explosions, big battle, and doesn't happen. I mean,
the strongest man there, and nothing happened.
Yeah, and so thankfully, as you say, there's plenty else going on. And it's interesting what you said about the English, or the use of very English sounding voices for the narration, because and Irish as well. This is a Persian setting.
Yeah, well, to me, and I'm not very good at accents, I have to say that, so I do apologise now if it's not English and not Irish, but to me, it was like the resistance were like the traditional Irish people, like there was that kind of IRA kind of, like a different kind of feel to them through the narration. And like one of the characters, I can't recall his name, but the one with the red hair, the one that she has kind of the love interest with, but doesn't really, the second, third in command. Well, he has the ginger hair, the pale skin, and the very strong Irish accent.
That doesn't make any sense.
But that could just be me.
Yeah. Well, nonetheless, it was jarring enough as a listener. Yeah. So, we do like to present these things. So, from a reader's perspective, from the text, not an issue. I would say yes. I would agree with you that the resistance was weak. Not really sure what the motivation was there, and so I think some of the plotting in this book shows that it's a debut novel.
Yeah, I've also found that there were some areas that didn't work correctly, like the character. I felt that the character of Leia wasn't evolved enough. It was very quick to move on to the next section within the story.
Yeah, that's right. And I had made that mistake in early drafts of my books where I've given it to a beta reader and I said, they solved that problem too quickly and then it was just gone, and the reader wants more tension to be dragged out. And yeah, there were definitely a couple of scenes in there. There's one where she climbs a ladder or a lattice. She climbs a lattice, that's right, up the side of one of the walls. Yeah. And you just think, what are you doing? She's doing it to prove something. Yeah, there were some moments like that. Overall, I still would give it 5 star.
Oh, no, yeah. No, overall, I think I'm more of a 4.5 because I didn't get my action scene. If I had it there, I would have been like, great. And, I love the book so much. I got the book.
Ta-da.
Beautiful cover.
It's
love the cover. Isn't it? Yeah. It's a great cover. So I'd been alternating between listening to the audio and reading it as well. So I'd been kind of doing both. Have you got yours as well?
Yeah, no. Yeah.
It disappeared.
Yeah, sorry. And I also noticed that I think when's the next one out? It's
August the 30th, 2016.
Yeah, it's quite a long wait, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, but I actually thought that was like, first of all, I was very disappointed. But then I thought, well, it took us 6 years to do the first one. So a year for the second one's pretty good.
Oh, yeah, totally understandable. I just think from
momentum
perspective of, we know as authors that if you have a fast-paced series that's especially aimed at voracious readers, of which the YA audience, whether they're young or whether they're adult, are all voracious readers usually. You really do want to have that next in series out. And in fact, Brian and I are going to, on his return, which is the next episode, we're going to start looking at some next in series. So, we're going to go back to, for example, the sequel to, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, which is terrific and definitely better. And you mentioned on the last episode that you like book twos, because they tend to. So you can't help but think that Sabaa Tahir would get some great feedback from this quite epic story that's obviously got to continue in an epic fashion. And maybe she'll listen to what you said there, Hayley, and put some action scenes in there and a big battle climax for you.
Yeah.
Where was it, honestly? But
I was pretty disappointed.
But the good thing is that there's what I wrote here in my notes is that I felt as a reader, every scene was really quite gripping. There was plenty going on in every scene, and the classic thing of what makes a good story is you want to know what happens next.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps you turning the pages or keep listening to the audio or staying up late and missing your bus stop or, all those sort of things and forgetting to do your homework. That was dreadful. I was dreadful for that at school. I didn't do it. Why? Because I was up late reading some sci-fi thing. And I think Sabaa Tahir gets this really right. It's I actually was ill. Sick with it. We had a huge epidemic of flu come through, and 35% of my daughter's school was off. More than half of her year were off. And my daughter was off for a week, which is really unusual. And so I actually read the entire book in less than a day while sick in bed, and it's not a short book. So, that tells you how pacey it is, that you can really get through it. So
I actually listened to it in 3 days.
Right, there you
while
go,
I was
yeah.
working. Yeah, I was like,
What did you say, 17 hours or something?
I think it's about that, and but I was like alternating between reading and doing the audio as well.
How do you
So
find that experience?
it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing that did annoy me was I don't know Roman numerals, and I can't even find
Oh,
it.
yeah, that's right.
But it's in
All the
Roman
chapters are in Roman
numerals.
numerals, yeah.
So I'm on chapter 15 on the audio, and I'm like, wow, and I was trying to work out where that was in the
Oh,
paperback.
so don't say chapter XV.
No.
Oh,
So I was a little bit stuck with
that interesting. Well, there you go. For those aspiring authors out there who are having their books converted into audio, make sure that they map across properly.
Yeah.
So, I wonder if that breaks WhisperSync. We should move into. It might, because chapter markers are really important to WhisperSync, really. So look, I haven't used it because I don't listen to audio. I read so fast that I find the audio infuriating, and I don't have time for it. Whereas I like going to bed and reading, and I just zip through them. But you use WhisperSync, obviously.
Well, my War Kids book actually just got whisper synced about 3 weeks ago. So I was like so excited because I like the aspect of being able to listen to it and read it. Like, I just think I think that was a really smooth new technology.
It's clever, isn't it? Yeah.
It really is.
I think where it's really, really good is for people who travel a lot. So, if you're on a plane and you don't want to read a book, hold a book up, you can just sit back and listen. So to explain for those who don't know what WhisperSync is, basically if you can listen to the audio and then the next time you pick up the book on your Kindle or your device and start reading, it knows where you left off on the audio and it'll pick up from the same spot. And then when you return to the audio, it knows where you left off in the text version and will return to the same spot again. It's genius. And great for the car. So I think back in the day, I used to do many years ago, decades ago, I used to do a lot of sales repping, and that would have been brilliant for that. A book that I love that I really want to keep reading, but of course we wouldn't have had the technology to play an audio book in the car with whispers.
I think it's a wonderful piece of technology. I'm as you know, I'm a true fan of audiobooks.
That's good.
It's actually we're listening to your first show that you and Brian did. I can't remember what book it was, but
it would have been Mockingjay if it was our very first show, I think.
I think someone was listening to the audio, and I was like, okay, I'm going to just listen to the audio. I'm just going to try audiobooks, and it was from watching your show, listening and watching your show.
Right.
and so I started downloading. I listened to the Divergent series.
Yes.
Then the Maze Runner series, and then the Legend series. I'm on that now.
Fantastic.
So it was. I'm a big fan of audio. So I'm making all my books into audios because of that reason.
I wish I could, but we don't get access to ACX here in Australia, so it's a real bummer.
Isn't there a third party that you can work with?
Oh, you could, yeah, but I would rather I have control issues.
That's too bad.
Anyway, we digress. We should go into the writer's perspective because there's quite a bit, I think, that you can gain from this book. As you say, there are good things, there are things that are a bit odd. What did you think, Hayley, from a writer's perspective?
I had a few things. I felt that for me personally, I did like the first chapter, but then after that I felt that it went a little bit slow. And I felt that, she was, at the beginning she was very scared and she ran.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden she's going down a dark alley to find the resistance into tunnels. And I'm like, you're a scared little girl. You wouldn't do that.
You wouldn't make that decision, no. It was too logical, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah, and I felt that she could have shown the world that she lived in more as a street girl. Like evolved what that, what the world was actually like where she lived, because she referred back to it, but there was no showing of it. You didn't know her friend mysteriously disappeared, but you didn't know it any more than that. So I felt that there wasn't enough background story to the main character, and not enough, descriptions of what that world was. So for me, that was one of my biggest it was an annoyance, to be honest, that her transformation happened so
Yes.
quickly. And then she became so strong and so brave. And, in front of everyone, she was very powerful. She came across. And she didn't have the inner voices of fear. And she didn't have that weakness, the pain. There was no elements of how much pain. Like, she'd been terribly scarred at one point, like injured, and she just got up and carried on with her ordeal.
Yes.
And there was none of that. I can't move. Like, I'm in pain. It's this, that. And it just evolved. She just like, so there's. I felt that with her character and the world building was lacking.
They were the letdowns, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did feel that. Yeah, it was that really did pull it down for me. It was the male character that really carried me through the story.
Yes.
Because he had more of a background, he had more of an identity.
Yes.
And you could understand he had more emotions than Leia did. So that was one of my big things.
And his stakes were fantastic as well. I mean, it was all about the loyalty to the Emperor and everything he'd been brought up with, but he was starting to maybe think, this is actually not right. This is not how it should be. Yet he was the school's sort of biggest, best, badass. Excuse the word, kind of guy. So it's a good observation actually from that point of view, that if you're writing YA, and we'd have to say that Leia is the main character. I mean, she is the Ember in the Ashes, although I think he's described as that as well at some point. But you sort of do get the thing that maybe she's supposed to be the main character, and if that's the case, her flaws don't quite match up. I mean, characters should be flawed, but as you say, 1 minute she's, she keeps saying how scared she is. The next minute she's climbing this lattice to listen in on the window of the most scariest guy in the entire palace. So
yes,
some things they didn't make sense, and if they don't make sense to the reader, then that's definitely a problem.
Yeah,
I think what kept me going was that what got me past those things that did raise an eyebrow here and there was the pace and the fact that Tahir is really good at doing one thing that I think she's really, really good at that every author needs to do, and we don't like doing it, but I think you do, which is you put your character in a tree and then throw rocks at them, and then if that doesn't hurt enough, you set fire to the tree, and that whole idea that you just keep putting them in worse and worse situations, and it's popularly attributed to Nabokov, this phrase, but apparently that's myth. But the intention is great. A lot of people, when they start writing, they want their character, especially the protagonist, to be nice, likable, and you don't want to do nasty things to them, but you have to, because that's what a story is, and especially for YA. So.
Yeah, I've never had that problem. My problem is not killing people. Everyone gets killed off in my books. Like, people say I have too many characters, and I'm like, well, I have to. I'm killing them all. Like, I'll end up with no characters left. I know you've not read the second book in the War Kids. You should really read the third, because there's, everyone dies. Oh my That's why there's no fourth. No, there is. I'm working on that.
But actually, I mean, Jada is it Jada? How you pronounce her?
Jada.
Jada. Yeah. So there you go. We need pronunciation guides. So Jada is another example of someone who's scarred and but everything she does makes sense.
Thank you.
She has to be tough. She has to go out, and she's not going to survive unless she kills people. And in any case, her dad had trained her to fire a gun, so she knew what she was doing. Whereas I think we do get a little bit of this in Ember in the Ashes is a little bit of the same thing that happened with Divergent, where, Triss, she's Amish 1 minute, and then the next minute she's some James Bond character.
Yeah, it's like I if you're going to be Jason Bourne, you've got to be that from day one.
Or have
there's
some
got to be
reason
something.
why. Yeah.
Yeah, there's got to be a reason why, or you've got to be injected with something, or you've got to have something that's going to trigger some superpower. You can't just, okay, today I'm going to go to school and tomorrow I'm going to be an assassin. Like, really? Unless you're going to assassin school, then that works.
Yes.
but yeah, I feel like she has to be more realistic.
Yes.
With the character.
Yes.
But yeah, the male character really did it for me. It was strong, and I
Yes.
like the section with when they were in the trials. I like the trial section within the book
Yes.
when they were doing that, and I like the other. I can't remember her name, but the other strong lead.
Oh,
the other
I can't remember her name. Yeah, she's great.
She was great. Like them two, it could have been them two could have been
Yes.
telling the story. It could
Yes.
have been their story. I like the element of the melted mask and things like that, and the infusion.
Yes.
I thought
Yes.
that was kind of cool.
Yes.
Aspect to it. What was the other thing?
Yeah, the good magic masks in there. Yeah, yeah. Go on.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just reading my notes. It said about the resistance. I felt that was I did feel that it was very weak storyline, and I think there was so much potential with that sideline.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And it didn't evolve to where it should have gone.
No, it should have been a big battle, like a Lord of the Rings type battle, or as you say, Game of Thrones. You know, that's where the missing elements are. I think for me as a writer, what I did like, and again, maybe because I read it all in the one day, I was very connected with the story. What I really noticed that if you want to examine how a debut author has managed to really do scene structure very well, so there's a goal, there's conflict, and in almost every case, nothing ever really works out. They they try to do this, it doesn't work. They try to do that, it doesn't work. They have to keep finding new ways around things, and I did like that. That reminded me of again Red Rising, which I think is a far better book in terms of the plotting. But you know, Sabata here gets that really right with a whole sort of and then when you can't just have the disaster, but you've got to have some kind of reaction and analysis and a bit of a dilemma, what do we do now? And that I think was done over and over and over, and that's what keeps the pace going.
Definitely.
And I like the dialogue as well. I thought Go on.
I thought that was very strong. I really like the 2 points of view.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of the I always feel more of a connection with the story if it's told in the first person.
Yep.
I have a love for that. I think it was in one of James Patterson's books, The Fire, I think it was, or The Gift. The first book was great. The second book I really didn't like, but I like the concept of the two characters, the 2 points of views, because you got to see the story from other elements, other aspects. So I thought that the way that she'd written the book was, the structure of the characters was very good for me. I really like that.
Interesting you mentioned that actually, because last episode we reviewed the Angel Experiment with Trudy J, and which is the very first book of Maximum Ride series with James Patterson, which is aimed at YA, but it's a very strange targeting because it's really a boy's story, but it's got a female protagonist, very very tricky. But it's James Patterson, and one of the things I thought was really well done in there was that it was always first person. Past tense for the main protagonist, but because it was multi-character, kind of a team of bandits type of thing, all the other characters had their own point of view, but they were in third person, and I thought that was quite nicely done. So look, the first person present tense thing is YA. I mean, there's no question about it. It's part of the whole YA genre, I think, and it's. I personally think I find it hard to write. So you've got to be good at writing first person present tense, and I think some of that depends on the upbringing as well. I mean, I'm not old, but I'm not young, and so a lot of the books I was brought up on, it wasn't really normal to have first person present tense. It was really the third person past was the way books were written.
It's very funny that you touch on that, because all my books are first person present tense. And my editor keeps telling me to do it in past tense, and I can't.
There you go. Yeah.
I just can't do it. Like, I want the reader to be in the action.
Yeah.
And you've got to be there in the moment. It's happening now.
Yep.
It's not happened yesterday. It's happening now. Like, you're walking through that forest and you can smell the woods, and you can smell as you're doing it, and that's what I like about the first person present tense. You get that relationship with the reader and the story. So I'm having a battle at the moment to try not to go to the past tense and stay with the present tense. Because I really do love that. The way that stories are told in that way.
Yes, and you often need the dual POV to make it work as well, because obviously if you're telling everything in first person, then you can't know what else is going on. And that leads me to one of the things that I was a little bit aware of from time to time in this story, where the author sort of contrives some backstory discussions, and there's a lot of interior monologue where she conveniently starts thinking about the past or explaining it to herself, or Elias explaining it to himself, and that is one of the problems with that first person thing. You've got to find someone else. I need to talk to someone about this story so I can explain to the reader what's going on.
That's why, yeah, totally. Well, it was Cook, wasn't it, in the book? She kept telling the stories.
It's quite funny. So hopefully that will be less prevalent in book 2. And I read recently Girl on a Train, which is not YA, but I just happened to read it because it's been one of those big sellers. And there is a massive plot hole in that, because of the fact that even though it's an unreliable character, one of the first person characters, they would never obscure this particular fact from their own mind. And so the fact that you don't ever find that out in the book is a little bit, it's a little bit of a trick. It's one of those sixth sense type things,
Yeah, I've got a little trick with mine. So my Sanction series, they're told in the first person, but she's a mind reader.
Ah. So you thought that's my trick, didn't
you? So she reads other people's minds, so they tell the story as well.
Yes.
So that's like a fun little trick.
Yeah. And we get in also in An Ember in the Ashes, we do get this one of these, and it's the same one I mentioned before, where she climbs the lattice, and it's one of those things where she climbs it, and this happens so much in the Divergent series, but it only happened once here, but it did annoy me, which is when you have to advance the plot by having your protagonist overhear something. I just think that's such a weak way of showing. There's got to be something better than that. So
yeah, and that actual section within the book could have been so much better.
Yes,
like that character. I want to know about that character. Like, I want to know about him more than I want to know about Cook. Yes. No offense to Cook. Yes. But I do feel that, I was... One of the other things that I did find a little bit frustrating was she kept repeating the inner voice about her brother and doing it for her brother.
Yes.
And there was no other emotion there. That was like the default. It's do it for your brother. And I get that she's doing it for her brother, but at some point it's like, okay, I'm going to prove I can do it. Like... you at least evolve a little bit.
And maybe have some recollection of a scene when her and her brother were doing something, and that gives the motivation. So it needs the whole acting sort of, so where's her motivation? It needs that. Anyway, I still think it's a good book. You would give it 4.5. I'd give it 5. Yeah. It's it's a nice pacey read. It's fun. It can only get better. It took us 6 years to write. If they turn it into a movie, it has plenty of big epic scenes in there. It could definitely do well as a movie. And I believe, as you said, optioned anyway. So we should go into takeaways. Hey, I'll take the start. And an easy takeaway here, I think fans of Hunger Games, Red Rising, should devour it. It's got plenty of action in there, and even if there are some plot holes, it's still a great fun read.
Yeah, I would say very similar to you, actually. If you're a fan of Game of Thrones, if you're a fan of action, a bit of gore, it's definitely not a... very young YA. It's an older YA. You will love the book. Yes. There's too many routine, descriptions.
More explicit than we need. And my third one, which would be, I thought the ending was really well resolved. Outside of, I agree, one of the prop resolution points that you were talking about, I thought was... definitely eyebrow raising. But a lot of reviewers went with a 1 star for the ending. They just didn't like it. And I thought it was really well done, but left it wide open for a continuing story. And I will read on.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there.
Let's go to our prompt. You find out that a member of your family is working for a secret organisation and could bring terror down upon the rest of you. Do you support them or not? And why? So there you go. That should inspire someone to write a story where there's a proper resistance. Not this
True resistance.
weak and wimpy resistance. So you can write a response to the prompt or tell us what you thought about the book. Did you like it? Didn't you like it? How did you think of the plot elements in there that we've referred to? And you can always do that at thesplitbookreviews.com. You can send us an email, podcast@thesplitreviews.com. You can tweet us, which is @thesplitbook. I'm Robert Scanlon from the Dreamer Chronicles. Next week, I think we are reviewing, this is the start of our sequels. So we're coming back to do a month of sequels. And ages ago, Brian and I reviewed The Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, which is an assassin's book. And this one, you know why she's an assassin. She's been trained. It's wonderful. So Crown of Midnight is the next book in the series, and it's a goodie. So we shall look forward to that. Hayley, or H.J. Lawson, where can you be found?
You can find me at hjlawson.com, on Facebook, hjlawson.com, and on Amazon.
And you should go there now and get Hayley's books because she's giving them away.
Giving them away for free.
Yeah. And if you like death and destruction, where all the characters die, you're in for a treat.
Yeah, sorry.
Don't be apologetic. There's plenty of YA like that, and it does really well. So this is the interesting thing about the genre, isn't it? It goes from sweet to seriously violent. I mean, it's really one of those, it's hard to encapsulate. So thank you once again, though, for taking all of that time, 17 hours for this one, 15 hours for the previous one. I hope you have fun. I certainly had a lot of fun on the shows, and we'd love to have you back one day. Maybe we do it with all three of us when
that'd be fun.
When your vampire book comes out.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. So that's, as I said before, that's Hayley Lawson, H.J. Lawson. Thank you very much. Just remember, people, if you are out there starting a resistance, make it meaningful.
Thank you guys for watching. Somewhere on this page is a subscribe button to the Split channel. We do reviews every week. We would love it if you followed us every single week. Isn't that right, Robin?
That's exactly right. Follow us now. Hit the subscribe button.
Do it.